Hi, everybody. So I was totally in the bathroom doing the power poses. Has anybody done that before? Yeah, I totally did maybe like 3, maybe 30. I don't know. If you were in there and you're like, what is that woman doing in that stall for so long? That's what I was doing. That was me. So thank you so much for having me. And I'm really excited about this. I'm going to speak about something that I'm really passionate about, that I've just started diving into and sharing. It's a personal story, and it's very hard for me to share personal stories, and my goal is that it will leave you inspired. With that, okay, let's get started. So my earliest memory is I was 8. I was 8 years old, and I was in a bomb shelter. I was sitting, I'm sitting on the concrete floor. My parents are close to me, my sisters, my brothers, my family, my cousins, my friends, my neighbors. And there's bombs dropping all around us. And the ground is shaking. Every time an explosion goes off, windows are shattering. And I've never seen my parents so terrified. And it made me really scared. And I remember vividly looking around this bomb shelter. It was so packed. It was suffocating. It was really humid that day. And I remember seeing so many people crying and screaming and praying. And I remember thinking, I'm 8 years old, and this could be it. This could be it for me. And then all of a sudden, 2 men in dark suits enter the bomb shelter. And they start calling out my little brother's name. And what happened next completely changed my life. And what I want to talk to you about today, part of what I want to talk about, is the notion of the birth lottery. What does that mean, the birth lottery? When I say, a lot of people look at me with a confused look on their face. And the birth lottery is the happen chance. It's the randomness of our starting point. It's the randomness of the traits and circumstances that we're born into, that we have absolutely no control over, that determine the opportunities and the challenges that we're going to face in life. So to use a proper analogy, let's picture a lottery machine. So air goes through the chamber, it mixes the balls. But instead of numbers, picture each one with a trait or circumstance that you're going to inherit. And picture an invisible hand pulling the valve and a ball popping up through the shoe. And you're now a boy. You're a girl. You're rich. You're poor. You're healthy. You're disabled. And so on and so on. And those random selections are going to determine the advantages and disadvantages that you're going to have for the rest of your life. It's pretty astonishing. And I look at you, and I hope it's sinking in. It's really profound. We don't choose our parents. We don't choose the country in which we're born. It's political system, the culture we're raised in, the education we receive. And each of them has a profound impact into the person that we become. Each of these circumstances and traits shapes our experiences and our perspectives, our values. It shapes our core identity. And it all happens when we're most vulnerable, when we have absolutely zero influence, none at all. And the question that I'm hoping you're asking yourself then is, how much of our life has been impacted by outside forces? How much has been beyond our control? And I've been fascinated with this notion of the birth lottery for a really long time, because I like to say I cheated the birth lottery. And I'm going to share my story. So I was born to Palestinian parents, and they moved to Kuwait when I was 8. I grew up in an upper middle class family. I was healthy, surrounded by loved ones. And it was a complete fluke how we ended up here in America. My dad had a business trip in Philadelphia. It was going to be the last one he was going to have for a really long time. And my mom had never been to America. And she asked if she can come along. And she did. She tagged along. She was 6 months pregnant. And she ended up having my little baby brother here in Philadelphia at Penn Hospital on July 1st, 1990. And then a month after they came back to Kuwait, Saddam Hussein invaded the country. And the Gulf War began. And we were caught right in the middle of it. And we were right in that bomb shelter when those two men came in asking for my little brother. My dad stood up and asked what they wanted. And they said, "We're from the US Embassy. We're here to evacuate all American citizens. And we're looking for Yasmine Mustafa." And my mom leapt to her feet screaming, "Are you taking my baby?" "No, ma'am. You're all going. Pack 2 bags. We're leaving immediately." And just like that, we ended up right here in Philadelphia. And our lives completely changed. I didn't speak any English, so I sat in the back of the classroom with crayons and paper because my school didn't offer English as a second language classes. My dad tried to find a job. He was a mechanical engineer. He tried to find a job in his field, but he couldn't because his degree didn't transfer, which happens to a lot of immigrants, by the way. So after 9 months, he swallowed his pride and bought a 7-Eleven franchise. And as you might imagine, we were the stereotypical Arab family with a convenience store in my neighborhood. And it was a family business. We all worked there. And after 10 years, he sold it. I was 19 at the time. And I remember a few months later, my dad, on a very warm, beautiful summer day, boarded a one-way flight to Jordan, never to return. He had become frustrated with our Americanization, and he had enough, so he left. And the next day, we found out that he actually taken all the family savings with him, leaving us on our own. So of course, we all went looking for jobs, but then we found out we were actually considered illegal immigrants, despite our refugee status, despite being brought here. So we did the only thing we could do, and we all took under-the-table jobs to survive. I hosted, I waitressed, I cleaned, I worked at a dry cleaner, I worked at a deli. I did it all. And then 9/11 happened. I walked into work the following day, and my manager turned to me, and he said, "Yasmine, you don't know how to fly planes, do you?" And people laughed. And I was shocked. And I was really embarrassed. And my brother had the misfortune of being named a name that's as common as Mike here. He was named Osama. And he was fired, and so much more. And when he couldn't find a job, he changed his name to Adam. And within a week, by the way, with the same skill sets, the same piece of paper with a different name, he got a new job. And all those experiences, working under the table, making less than minimum wage, post 9/11, motivated me to want to be an entrepreneur so that I could treat others the way I wanted to be treated. And with that, I found myself at Temple University's entrepreneurship program. And I met this incredible guy, Chris Pavlidis, who greatly inspired me. He took me under his wing. And I credit a lot of who I am because of him. With 2 under-the-table jobs, I went to school part-time. I actually went back and forth, part-time, full-time. And I put myself through school. I had a 3.8 GPA, but I couldn't apply for scholarships because I wasn't a citizen. But all in all, 7.5 years later, I graduated. And it was a phenomenally happy day for me. I will never forget this day as well. And then I got into the tech industry. I had an internship where someone hired me part-time to work with early-stage technology entrepreneurs. I would sit across from them. I would hear all the dreams and aspirations, and I desperately wanted to be one of them. So I left and I started my first solo company, which helped bloggers make money from their content. It was called 123 Link It. And I worked my butt off, and it was sold in late 2011. And while I was running it, I figured out I was kind of way over, I was naive. I was way over my head. I didn't know anything about coding. And I founded Girl Development Philadelphia. And I'm currently running Roar for Good, which I'm actually going to talk about in a little bit. So this September will be 25 years since all of us came to Philadelphia. And what I can't help thinking about is what my life would have been like if we had never come here, if we had stayed. And most likely, it would have been very similar to my mom. My mom had an arranged marriage when she was 16 years old. She met my dad just 3 days before her wedding. She was raised in a culture where the status quo was to raise a family, have as many boys as possible, like you could help it, and not many furthered their education beyond high school. And I think about that a lot, because I wonder what would have happened. What would my life have been like? And I don't know. I don't know if it would have been better or worse, and it doesn't matter, because I do know that Saddam Hussein, his actions and my brother being born here completely changed the trajectory of my life. It reset my circumstances. It gave me whole new opportunities, and it transformed my birth lottery ticket. And I am so, so grateful to be where I am. I feel so lucky that I get to choose the life and the future that I want. So it took 22 years to become a US citizen. I was naturalized on April 19th, 2012 at 10:39 a.m. And I know the exact day, I know the exact time, because it meant so much to me. I could apply for scholarships if I wanted to. I could travel the country without being worried about being deported. I had so many more opportunities. And I walked home that day, hugging random strangers on the street, screaming, "I just became a US citizen!" I was so, so happy. It finally happened. I had a party, and I had an American flag cake. And I remember that night, I was laying down, and I was thinking about the day, and I was thinking, finally, it happened, it's here. It's been a long time coming. And I remember being struck by the different reactions amongst my friends. And that some of my American friends were ambivalent. But my immigrant friends, they understood the significance of that day. They got why it meant so much to me and how pivotal it was. I changed a lot of stuff last night, so I got to look at my notes. And yes, I had an epiphany. And it's that as human beings, we don't realize our privilege until we've struggled. We don't realize our privilege until we've gained it or until we've lost it. There are limits all around us. There are lots of inequalities, stereotypes, systematic challenges. And some people feel like the odds are stacked against them, that they're born into circumstances that have a lot more challenges than opportunities. And I have a feeling, I have this theory, that if we ponder the birth lottery, if we think about it, that can change. If we think about the randomness of our starting point, we can transform society so that less people feel like that small fish in the picture, so that we can help each other. And I broke down 3 ways we can all help each other. Everything fits in three ideas. The first one is start something. Start something that inspires people, that moves people. It could be as little as a meetup group, a get-together with friends, going and learning a new language. I was at a girl development class. We had a product management class a few weeks ago, and a woman came up to me and she's like, this was great. I can't believe I met other product managers. There aren't that many of us here. You know, I wish there was a group where we could all get together and trade stories. And I looked at her and I said, start one. Start that group. Do it. You never know how that could impact someone else. I have a friend who, she faced a lot of body image issues growing up, and so she started a blog talking about it, and then she turned it into a magazine, and now she actually goes and talks. She leads workshops for little girls and adults to talk about body image, positive body image, and she's changed so many lives. The Women in Tech Summit, where's Gloria? The Women in Tech Summit was nothing but an idea 4 years ago. We found that there weren't many opportunities for women to get together and talk about getting into technology and talk about the challenges they face. And with just an idea, Gloria and a bunch of women started it, and now this past, what was it, 2 months ago, it was oversubscribed by more than 300 people. Be kind to others. There's this famous quote. It goes something like, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. And it's so true. It doesn't matter how much money someone has. It doesn't matter how well composed, how well put together they look. We're all struggling with something. And when I think about that, I can let the little bump in the shoulder as I'm walking slide by. I can let the snide remark go by. And I just want to ask you to take that on. What can you do to help someone else? And especially when you walk into 7-Eleven and Dunkin' Donuts, be nice. Be nice to those people. And mentor someone. Chris Pavlidis, the picture that I showed, unfortunately, he passed away. I would burst into his office. He led the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Institute at Temple. And I was this kid with lots of ideas and ambitions. And I would literally burst in his office and say, I have the next big idea. And he'd patiently sit me down and listen to the idea. And he had this way where he helped me figure out the holes in it and come to conclusions myself. And he encouraged me. No one had encouraged me the way that he had. He believed in me. And I've never had someone do that the way that he did that. And it really impacted me. And you never know how that one word of encouragement could impact someone else's life. And I really believe that those three things that I mentioned could have a difference in other people. So here are three things I'm involved in. Coded by Kids. I sit on the board. Has anyone ever heard of Coded by Kids? Awesome. So it's a nonprofit here in Philadelphia that teaches inner city kids how to code. And the founder, it's an amazing story. His name is Sylvester Mobley. And he came back from Iraq. And he saw kids in his neighborhood that were born into poverty, circumstances beyond their control, that didn't have any opportunities as a result. So they got into bad stuff. And he wanted to give them new opportunities. He wanted to help break the cycle of poverty. He wanted to change their lives. And what he did is he started this nonprofit that meets once a week, actually now 2 times a week, that takes these kids in, anyone that wants to learn of all ages, and teaches them these new skills. And he told me this incredible story a couple days ago of these twin, 9-year-old twins. And their mom, they're growing up in the inner city. Their mom is addicted to drugs, and they're being raised by their grandmother. So these kids are 9 years old, and they've been going to the events, and now they can use the command line. 9 years old. Like, I don't know how to use a command line, and I run a tech group. And here are some upcoming programs that they have, and if you want to get involved, I know he told me that they're looking for designers, especially designers, developers. It's a great way to mentor. It's a great way to get your company involved. So look him up or come find me, and I'll give you his information. And Girl Develop It, the story of Girl Develop It. You know, I could definitely get into why we need more women, why we need more minorities in technology. That could be its own talk. But I will say that the #1 reason I'm really passionate about it is diversity creates better solutions. It creates better products. And when I was running 123 Link It, I tried teaching myself how to code, and it didn't work very well. So I learned about Girl Develop It up in New York, and I would take the Bolt bus there and back to take the classes. Now just picture a 2-hour class and a 4-hour commute. So I went up to Sarah Chips, the founder, and I said, hey, you know, I want to start this. And brought it here to Philly, and it's now, we're now grown to over 20 teachers, 80 volunteers, and we've touched the lives of over 3,000 women. And Sam is back there from Girl Develop It as well. If you, just gotta give her a shout out. She's one of the volunteers and organizers. And we're always looking for teachers. We're always looking for people to come and help out. I know one of the things I hear a lot of is, I want to learn how to code, but I don't know how to start. And if you are a coder or a designer, you know, one way that you could help is to host office hours, even if it's a phone call. Because sometimes, you know, all someone needs is just a few words of encouragement or to hear your story to inspire them. And we're always looking for space. We never have enough space. So if you have space, especially on the weekends, please come talk to me. I'd love to talk to you about it. And now I'm running. If that isn't enough, as you can tell, I'm a really hard worker. And I'm running a new company called Roar for Good. So the funny thing is that as soon as I became a citizen, I left the country. I went on a 6-month solo trip around South America. And the funny thing is when I was planning this, people were so excited. They were like, oh yeah, this is so cool. I can't believe you're doing this. This is awesome. And then when I bought my ticket, people were like, are you freaking nuts? What are you doing? You know, you're a woman. You can't do this. And I'm really glad I did it. I will say it completely changed my life. And one of the things I experienced as I was traveling is everywhere that I went, whether it was a hostel, whether I stayed with locals, is I kept hearing these stories of times women had been attacked. And then a week after I came back from my trip, there was an incident a block from my apartment. This woman was out feeding her meter when she was grabbed from behind, dragged into an alley, and assaulted. And that story inspired Roar for Good, and we're developing fashionable safety jewelry that emits an alarm and a light once it's activated, messages friends and family with the person's location, and instantly calls 911. And what I'm really excited about, what I'm most excited about, is we don't want to just put a Band-Aid on what's happening, is we're actually taking proceeds and investing them in nonprofits that teach consent and respect and healthy relationships, that teach empathy, which we all need more of. And there's ways that you can get involved with that too. We're actually looking for designers. I know this is a creative group. We're looking for jewelry, industrial designers. We're looking to meet more women empowerment groups. And of course, you know, you should definitely sign up for it. So in conclusion, the common thread through everything that I've talked about is that there's a birth lottery. That some people are born into situations where they have more opportunities and others have more obstacles. And some people are able to go beyond their circumstances and others maybe don't have a chance. And by understanding the birth lottery, I truly believe we can transform society and set events in motion that lead to a revolution. Thank you. I don't know if it was, a lot of people thought I was going to talk about coding. I don't know if that's what you expected. What did you guys think?
Story.
Yes?
So with at least with teachers learning how to code, have you seen anyone yet? I mean, I know some are younger, but has anyone yet built anything really interesting or solved a problem through learning those skills? Something that comes to mind that was such awesome for you?
I think my favorite story is, so I met my best friend through Girl Development. She came to a class. She was working in a nonprofit where she was being 1099 still after 12 years of being there, where she was making very little money, but she was in it because she was passionate about it. And she discovered that she loved coding. And she started coming to a bunch of classes. She actually became an organizer. And she is now a full-time developer, making more than twice the salary that she was making. And she has a completely different lifestyle. And she's so much happier and so much more challenged and fulfilled in her work. So it doesn't quite answer the question, but those type of stories are what inspires us.
Would you ever would you ever like just kind of have people circle around certain projects that way while they're learning the skill sets, it's all within a certain goal to like build something?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So every time there's hackathons, like random acts of I forget what the. Yeah, we encourage everybody to go and do those events, and we do classes where everybody can get together with like a Photoshop file and learn how to like slice it and create a website and stuff like that. Do you have a question?
I do, yeah. So we all pulled up name badges with the what do you think the next revolution will be over? And because you touch so many different aspects of technology and really, I mean, social work, I guess I'd say. It's not in any one discipline. What do you think the next revolution is going to be?
I think empathy. I think if we are more empathetic, I think we can really change the world. If we understood different people, if we didn't take people at face value, if we went beyond how they look and how they act and what they wear and how they speak, I think we can unite. Yes.
I guess in terms of teaching a lot of kids in the urban area about developing, do you find that they actually have a general interest in it? And if so, is it because of the discipline of it, or is it because of the, I guess, the aspect of making money, a lot of money from it? What do you find they're interested in about it?
Well, what's sad is a lot of the kids that come in actually don't have computers and they don't have internet. So sometimes they will come in because they're getting dropped off, and you know, their parent or someone that knows about the organization wants to see if they will get into it. And we definitely, you know, will get students that we teach them how to type first before we can even teach them how to code. And there's some that like you really get sucked into it, and you could see it. You could see kind of light bulbs go off, and it's really cool.
Do you expect a lot of these kids to really maybe pursue a career and maybe, I guess, something like that, or?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, the goal is to provide that as an opportunity.
Right.
Because without this, they won't have that opportunity. They won't even know about it. And you know, there's so much demand. We have more tech jobs than people filling them. And if they could be, you know, one of those people that could fill them and make more money than the circumstances they're in right now could lead them to, it could change their life. Yes.
Just to touch on empathy again. So that's, just to be honest, that's something I struggle with, and I've been trying to. Sometimes I find myself being more judgmental or just not listening to someone's story. Is there something that, like a mantra that you tell yourself when you find yourself like, I'm not being empathetic, let me take a minute, let me take a step back, because I've tried a few different ideas on how to get there, but I'm still struggling.
Yeah, I mean, I struggle with it too. I think that quote, "Be kind because everyone is fighting a battle."
Yeah.
I think that is really powerful, because especially when I get upset with someone, I think to myself, okay, what happened to lead them to this? Something must have happened in their life to make them this way, and let me be more sympathetic, because I feel like once people feel like they're being listened to, once people feel like they are being acknowledged, they, you know, completely switch gears. So I hope that helps. That's what I found.
That's it.
I have a question on that. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to ask you, as a double minority, a female and a person with ethnicity, how do you encourage other minorities to excel even if they're facing these unique challenges of being different or, you know, in the tech field?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. So as a double minority, how do you encourage someone to keep going and persevere? I don't know, when I share people kind of like the backstory, they're like, man, how did you do that? And I'm not religious. I am spiritual. And I don't know what it is, but I always found that I think about like the tunnel. Like I think about the long vision. I think about what I want. And to be perfectly honest, for a long time, I was motivated by the people that told me I couldn't do what I'm doing. And I used those quotes that I would get from them to be like, nope, I'm going to prove you wrong. And it's probably not the best way, but it pushed me a lot of times when I was down.
Well, I was going to piggyback off what she said about empathy, and the gentleman that she said asked if you could fly a plane. I was wondering, I guess now with the mindset that you have, being empathetic to people, obviously without being a jerk, how would you, I guess, handle that situation now in the mindset that you have now?
I think I would have talked to him. And I kind of want to still one day. Just to say, you know, that wasn't cool. And here's why. Yeah. It's amazing like how some experiences, like you still feel like you relive them when you talk about them.
Yeah, I was there with you.
Hey. All right, thank you.